department is also a passion of mine. I was drawn to agriculture by my good friend Willie. I started doing my own backyard gardening, and I realized that it can pay. It saves us a lot of money going to the shop to buy peppers and tomatoes. But what I realized that they need to have a proper up and going extension project. People in Island Harbor who wants to do farming have to wait weeks before the extension officer could get to them. We need to have at least 3 extension officers employed in the agricultural department, 1 for the west, 1 for the central, and 1 for the east. I'm going to some documents now. You remember last week I made a statement that caused a lot of people to wonder why. Before I get to that, I want the people of Northside to take notice that we in this village, and by extension the whole of this Valley North district, we have a number of musicians who pass through this area. Some are now living overseas, some still here with us. So I am proposed to set up what is considered to be a Valley North Music Festival, where the musicians of yesteryear who are still alive will have the opportunity to come home once a year and take part in this music festival. A lot of them live in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Some live further afield in the United States of America. But they will be willing to come home and take part in this festival once a year. They have contributed much to the development of Anguilla, and in particular to this Valley North. We used to play steel pan. We played drums. We play all type of wind and string instruments. That will come back. Our culture will come alive again in Anguilla. I will promote and establish an after-school program for all the residents of Valley North, whether you are young or old. Various classes will be taught, including educational, technical, and other skills. No one will be left out. Everyone will be given an opportunity to excel in his or her preferred field or choice. I have already identified a building that will be used for that center. We will be establishing a community center in Valley North, where members of the public can come in and see me, your minister. Thanks, Mr. Rogers. Sorry that you didn't get that privilege. You should have looked for a center. Too late shall be your cry. I have received positive assurance from the lady who owns the building. She lives in the United States of America. I already made 2 telephone calls overseas. I had to enhance my credit facility at Digicel, working just for you, the people of Anguilla. The lady said, Mr. Richardson, I am a political activist myself. And what you are doing, I applaud you, and I will support you 100% in making sure that you get the building for that purpose. We're on the move. We're on the move. We're doing well. I'm already working for you before I'm elected. But when I get elected, I'm going to go all the way to make sure that this district of Valley North no longer will be left undone. When Jesus walked the face of this earth, I know you say going to the Bible now. But I'm going to stay in the Bible. The word have I hid in my heart that I wouldn't sin against you. When Jesus walked the face of this earth, and when they heard that he was coming and he would be the king of the Jews, you know what the reply was? But he born in Nazareth. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? And I believe him, but I hear the people saying, but why here, but he was choose Elkin for? But I know he for poorly. But he can't amount to nothing. Poorly by a minister. Jesus became one of the greatest men that ever walked the face of this earth. He never had a college degree. He never had a university degree. He never went to a formal school, but the Spirit of the Lord was upon him, and he was anointed. And he did wonders. He baffled all the men when he went into the city, and he went into the synagogue, and he started preaching to the people. And the people said, but what manner of man is this? This man got so much of knowledge. We got scribes and Pharisees and leaders, well-learned men. But how come he could speak so well? That's why they were baffling Island Harbor. This boy who ain't know nothing talks so well. The Spirit of the Lord was upon me, man. That's why I was able to deliver so well. And I did it with pride and confidence because I was representing Valley North. Let me take this opportunity. It might come off like a joke, but let me take this opportunity while we're on social issues to send a message to two sons and to raise funeral home to order some more caskets. Order some more caskets, your money won't go in vain. I sense it. I sense it, my friends, that you're going to need them. And don't order no cheap caskets. Order the expensive ones. Those are plaid with mahogany. Because a lot of the odd fellas are going to go down this trip. The Freemasons are going to go down too. The odd fellas are going to go down, and the even fellas like you and I, we are going to survive. We're going to stand. The pressure is on. Order your caskets. You're going to get them sell. Because they're hotting them. They're hotting. I told you last week that a vote for the Anguilla United Front, that the plane, Anguilla, will end up in the same situation like the plane. People took offense with that. So let me see if I could clarify that for you tonight. I was not making fun or laughing at our friends in Malaysia. And the next morning, I was pretty surprised to know how many Malaysians we have in Anguilla sitting in the front of the bus. But the reason why I said that, because in 2009, when the Honorable Chief Minister returned from London, when they had their ministerial conference meeting there, he came back and he went to the House of Assembly and he told the gathering, and by extension all those who were listening and viewing, that the British government isn't going to give them permission to borrow any more money. Mr. Fleming, a very smart, clever politician, he said, we weren't asking them to give us the money. We weren't asking them to give us permission to borrow some money. And if they don't want to give us permission to borrow the money, then they must come from country, come from country. You know what people say? Don't worry, husband. I was going to talk with one side of you, sometime talk with the other side of you. But I learned later on that the British government had written to Osborne Fleming on the 1st of July 2009. Well, Neil, I got a bright light tonight, so I'm going to read. I ain't going to count tonight. I forget my specs, but I'm going to read, Neil. I am very conscious of the economic and financial challenges facing Anguilla and the effects you and your government are making to address them. This was a letter sent to Osborne Fleming, the Chief Minister of Anguilla. I am glad that we will have an opportunity to discuss the issues here on the 20th of July. It might be helpful to prepare for that meeting if I set out how the UK government sees the current situation and the way forward. The global economic slowdown is affecting all countries, large and small, with implications for growth, jobs, and public finances. I am aware that in the case of Anguilla, the fall in the US-based tourist numbers and the slowdown in real estate development have hit the economy hard, with consequences for government revenues and for the level of cash reserves. I understand that on the 17th of April, your officials wrote to Colin Roberts, Director of Overseas Territories, requesting permission for the government of Anguilla to borrow $49.6 million to finance port development and community college development. You've been hearing a lot about that. This followed the OTD Economic Advisor's visit in February, when he concluded that borrowing on this scale would be unwise, given the deteriorating state of Anguilla's public finances. That's why I told you that Anguilla was going missing. Following your request for a ministerial meeting to discuss the economic crisis and prospects for Anguilla, Colin asked for details of how your fiscal economic recovery plan to inform the July discussions. He acknowledges the financial difficulties faced your government this year and spells out plans to bring Anguilla out of recession. But as officials have already pointed out to you, Osborne, it does not explain how you propose to reverse the pattern of monthly recurrent deficits this year, so avoiding further rundown of your reserves. Nor does it justify assumption of significant revenue growth in 2010 and 11. Here what Colin Roberts tells Mr. Fleming: I understand your reluctance to introduce new resources of revenue, but without a clear commitment to either further expenditure cuts or revenue increases, it is hard to conclude that Anguilla's public finances would be able to sustain the kind of large-scale borrowing you propose. I should be grateful if you could clarify your thinking on these points and on other points raised by my officials in recent exchanges in advance of our meeting, and preferably by 10th July, to give us time to consider. I very much look forward to your meeting. Then I asked Osborne, Osborne, you get our letter? Yeah. But what happened? Damn fools. I answered them. I answered them. You read the next letter? Colin Roberts, Anguilla's public finances. Thank you for your letter of 14 September and 21 September, which followed up your telephone conversation with Colin Roberts. I appreciate the efforts your government is making to address the issues I outlined in my letter of July 27. I assure you that I consider each territory request very much on an individual and case-by-case basis. However, I must act prudently when considering your request for digital borrowing at this time when Anguilla is already in breach of the agreed UK-Anguilla borrowing guideline. This was in 2009. Where was Hubert Hughes then? Where was the AUM then? This was in 2009. I welcome the commitment you have made towards cutting public expenditure, including public service pay cuts. However, there has been less progress in plans to broaden Anguilla's revenue base. In the absence of such plans, including details of how existing and further debt will be paid back over the next 3 to 5 years, and your planned changes to Anguilla's taxation policy. The British government was talking taxes from 2008 and 2009 to the captain and the co-pilot of the plane, but they didn't tell us nothing. The Malaysian pilots, them didn't tell us nothing. I am, however, prepared to agree exceptionally to the government of Anguilla borrowing 20 million EC dollars to cover recurrent deficit over the next 6 months, providing that you commit now to the introduction of new revenue measures no later than the beginning of 2010 to 11, to broaden your revenue base as identified by an independent study to analyze the impact of public finances of a range of new taxes and/or initiatives. This study will be funded by the Foreign and Commerce Office with a view to having consultants in Anguilla as soon as possible. They came right after the 2010 elections. However, given the particular circumstances of your request to conclude provision to finance a proposed runway expansion at Wall Blake Airport, I would be happy to consider that separately. Once I have received a comprehensive business case which makes clear the impacts of the reduction of the cleared runway length and any consequent loss of revenue to Anguilla, I look forward to your confirmation that these conditions are acceptable to your government. Osman Fleming did not respond again. 2009 went out, we had an all year service and everybody felt that everything was okay. But the pilot at that time, Anguilla was going off course. And the captain and the co-pilot was on board and they didn't tell us nothing. Then Mr. Chris Bryant, he took over from Colin Roberts and he said, you know something? I ain't hearing from Osborne, I gonna write Victor. So they said it came from the Foreign and Commerce Office in London on the 18th January 2010. Election would have been 1 month later. I am sorry that we were not able to speak, dear Victor, Anguilla public finances. I am sorry that we were not able to speak this week. Unfortunately, I was called to a parliament debate on Wednesday and there were technical problems on Thursday. Please accept my apologies. And please may I take this opportunity to congratulate you on the solving the local fishing dispute between St. Martin and Anguilla. Remember when the fellows from Western and Blowing Point were going to St. Martin to fish and the gendarmes and the people blockaded the water and they had to turn back? Mr. Banks got credit for solving the dispute so quickly. Since we could not speak, I am replying to the letter 12 January from Kathleen Rogers, Permanent Secretary of Finance, to Charlotte Coaster, the OTD economist, regarding the bridging loan for the first quarter of 2010. As you know, I wrote the Chief Minister on the 1st of October 2009. I commented on the lack of progress in broadening Anguilla's revenue base, but I was prepared to agree to the government of Anguilla borrowing $20 million over the next 6 months, providing the government of Anguilla commit then to the introduction of new revenue measures, that means taxes, to be identified by independent study. The Chief Minister did not reply. You know, Osborne said he didn't answer them. So this man right, he didn't answer them. Going on. But I understand that a study is due to proceed in early March after your election has taken place. It is important that this study goes ahead. Let me pause here to tell you, the British government is the British government, and the Anguilla government is the Anguilla government. So whatever each Anguilla government agreed to with the British government, whichever government comes into power, they have to honor the obligation to the British government. So don't let anybody fool you that, oh, the former administration may have made some negotiation with the British government, but this government could have done better. Anguilla is Anguilla, the British is the British. If the former administration agreed to new taxes, the British government going to hold whichever government comes in office to the same obligation that the former administration agreed to. Don't fool yourself. I was only able to detect that because I put on the current. I understand the risk of raising taxes at a time when the economic activity is depressed. That is why having a professional independent revenue study is so important. A similar study in other overseas territories recently identified short and medium-term measures that can be taken to address the problems similar to those that you are facing here in Anguilla without affecting economic growth. So I would urge the government of Anguilla to cooperate fully with the consultant. But in the meantime, it seems that you have not been able to reduce expenditure significantly or sufficiently, and therefore minimize the ongoing budget deficit. You seem to have relied unduly on the arrival of the next tranche of EU grant of about $9 million. EC. I realize that you are entitled to this money, but as I said to you last July, your budgeting needs to take account of the uncertainty surrounding when this will be delivered. The total outstanding grant from the EU is $24 million, with the final tranche of $50 million due late this year. That was in 2010. I recognize that it's important that the government of Anguilla is able to honor its commitment, including salaries. So with continuing uncertainty over your finances and the delay in, listen what I'm telling you now, I recognize that it's important that the government of Anguilla be able to honor its commitments, including salaries. So with continuing uncertainty over your finances and the delay in this year's budget due to election, how the British government knew that the Anguilla government had delayed the 2010 budget because 2009 budget because election would come up in 2010, and we didn't know. The British government knew that the reason why the government of Anguilla had delayed the 2009 budget because elections were coming up in 2010. It's right here in black and white. So with the continued uncertainty over your finances and delay in this year's budget due to election, I think it makes more sense if I permit you to borrow full $24 million. However, before I do so, I would like a written confirmation from the government of Anguilla that A, the government of Anguilla will, by the end of March, a credible budget where recurrent revenue is greater than recurrent expenditure. But Hubert Hughes had to deal with that. And where recurrent expenditure is 5% less than in 2009. And B, that the $24 million is repaid immediately on receipt of the two remaining tranches of EU grant. I will require written confirmation that this has been done. The fact that you have made this borrowing request at such a short notice reflects fundamental weaknesses in government of Anguilla public financial management in terms of poor budgeting and monitoring and weak expenditure control. These issues will have to be considered in reviewing and, if necessary, agreeing to new borrowing guidelines in which, among other things, we will be looking for mechanisms to ensure that the borrowing requirements are accurately identified at an earlier stage. I look forward to your confirmation and these conditions are acceptable to your government. This was Chris Bryant. With all these discussions, the government of Anguilla, through the Ministry of Finance, had created for the British government, unknown to us, what is known as a Physical and Economic Recovery Plan 2009 to 2011. It is in the book. All that I had to say tonight, all I want to tell you, the people of Anguilla, that if you vote again for the Anguilla United Front, or even the board, we're going to end up in more serious problems that we had before. But I learned that the board finally realized that there's no tree to make a nest. And if you go on the electrical wires with a normal cooler, current gonna shock them. So the board had decided that it will take a risk. So in the not too distant future, the board will swallow his pride and come to the people of Anguilla and tell you he's done with it. In relation to the Anguilla United Front, not only this candidate, the beacon can't shine without current. Whether you're going to use AC, DC, or whatever type of current, you need current to shine. And I'm going to tell you, in East End, in Island Harbor, I'm not going to turn it on. In East End, I'm not going to turn it on. Well, don't worry to come to Valnac and shut it down completely. If you go the road to George Hill, I'm going to turn it off. You go to West End, the same thing would happen. You go down to Blowing Point, you might get a little bit of light from St. Martin. You might. And if you go to West End, I am not going to turn on the current. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make sure that the beacon don't shine in none of the districts. And a few districts that the board was hoping to get some resolve or to find a little place to rest, build a nest, or to lay a head, I'm going to shake them out of the tree. And if they're going to go on the current wires, I'm going to shock them. All that being said, all I'm asking you, when that day comes in 2015, go to the polls, vote for the tree, the tree, the tree, the tree, the tree. Elkin Richardson the tree. Elkin Richardson the tree. Elkin with ILR, what is it? Elkin Richardson the tree. Elkin Richardson the tree. The tree, the tree, the tree. Come Sam, we're done. Good night. God bless you. Have a good night. Get to the point, man.
We're ready. Yeah, we're ready. Ready. Ready.